Alright, you guys, so today we're going to take these gorgeous tomatoes and crush them. We're going to can crush tomatoes, which is very much like canning whole tomatoes. Lots and lots of little steps. None of them are very difficult. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. So I have my trusty Ball Complete Book of Home Preservation. And this is, let's see, which one is it? Published in 2006. Going to page 357, and we're following the crushed tomato recipe. I did this once last year, and I've gotten many questions about this whole process. So this year we're going to slow it down. And this would be a very good project for a first-time canner. Again, a lot of little steps. None of them are hard at all. So what we need are some tomatoes, bottled lemon juice or citric acid, and I'm using citric acid because it gives a little less flavor to the tomato, in my opinion, and salt if you like it. I'm leaving the salt out, so really I'm just using tomatoes and citric acid. Here is the whole recipe. If you want to stop and snapshot that. All right, good enough. Now you know how to do it. Not really. Okay, so this is what we're doing. So let's assume this is your first time canning anything. And because it is, you're going to be checking your book so often, it's going to make you nuts. Take a piece of paper and mark that page, the one you need to know the info from. Highlight and circle anything that's going to make you crazy, like what's the headspace? It's a 1/2 inch. 45 minutes for quarts, that's what I'm doing. How much citric acid should I put in? And with the jar size, I'm doing quarts, so that's a 1/2 teaspoon per jar. Now, those are things you're just going to refer back to time and time again because you're going to second guess yourself, right? That's okay. Just have the book somewhere, mark the page. So now we're going to start. What are we going to do? We're going to bring our washed tomatoes over. Let's just walk through it. We're going to take our washed tomatoes over here. I'm going to look at the tomato. I'm going to take the green off, and I'm throwing this into my garbage container that later I'll feed to my chickens. Or actually I'll compost that because chickens shouldn't eat tomato stems. Alright, the beautiful tomato. So what we're going to do is take a sharp paring knife. This is an El Cheapo one that I got at the grocery store. This is a more expensive one. Does not matter. Use what you're comfortable with. This one is smaller and it's sharp as hell. We're going to put an X in the bottom of this tomato. What we're going to do is pop this into this boiling water we have over here and take the skin off. Now remember I said there's lots of steps. Not hard, okay? X in the bottom. We're leaving the core and everything in, so we're going to walk it over to our pot of boiling water. We're going to take the lid off of our boiling water. Woo, it's boiling. We're going to take our tomato with the X on the bottom. I'm going to use one of these because if I drop that in there, I'm going to get splashed. And I don't want to get splashed. So we're just going to do one at a time so we can look at the whole process. And then once, I said that like I was Canadian, didn't I? Process. And once I get going, I'll have like 5 or 6 tomatoes in there at a time, and I'll be using on my bowls. So I'm going to leave that in there for 2 minutes for a larger, medium to large size tomato. 3 maybe for a large. All you're going to do is look, and you're going to wait for that skin to start peeling off the bottom of that tomato. Then what we're going to do is take that tomato out, and we're going to put it in the ice water. See, lots of little steps. None of them hard. Alright, let's come back when it's peeling. Alright, so what I see now, let me just show you, is that the skin is starting to come off that tomato, and let me just flip it over so you can see. It's starting to oh, you can't see that. Ah, hot. It's starting to crack all around there, and that's going to help me get the skin off. So now what I'm going to do is shock it in ice water. normally I would already have these tomatoes prepped and ready. Well, they are, and then I would put them in here and keep everything rotating. But let's just slow down. So we're going to let this cool down enough where I can handle it, which means I can pick it up and I can use my hands to deal with this tomato, which is going to take about 30 seconds to a minute. Alright, so take this tomato out. I've got my garbage bowl, I moved it down a little bit. I'm just going to peel the skin off. See how easy that comes off now? So nice. So nice. So we're going to quarter these tomatoes because I like the quarter size. I got some really big tomatoes. I might put those into 8s, whatever size you want in your jar, right? So you're going to look at your tomato and you're going to say, oh, I've got that core, but I'm going to quarter it anyway, right? So let's just take out part of that tomato. I left the core there. Take this, I'm going to just cut that in a quarter and, you know, put it on the cutting board if that's what you're more comfortable with. And then I'm going to put this in another bowl. Now I'm just going to take that core out. Good enough for me. Quarter it. And I'm going to look around to see if there's any cracks, blemishes, whatever. Nope. Throw it into my other bowl. Boil bowl. I'm dog sitting. My dog is a barky. Alright, so we're just going to do that over and over and over again until this is all empty. So let's rock and roll. By the way, this is a great time for you to listen to that book on tape you've been wanting to hear. Watch something that doesn't take a lot of attention on TV. So maybe the Kardashians or whatever garbage you like to watch that doesn't take much attention, but books on tape are my gig. Only problem is I've got them on my phone, so I have to go back and forth between the camera and the tape, but big deal. Alright, here we go. Alright, so as we're going through this really quickly, now is the time to start thinking about your jars. Well, you should have thought about them already and had them somewhere, but I neglected to tell you that. So I do mine in the dishwasher. These jars have already been run through the dishwasher yesterday, but I want them clean and hot today. This is way more jars than I'm going to be using. I think I'll probably end up using like 5 or 6. It almost takes like 3 pounds of tomatoes to make a quart of jars. Here's a pint. There's a quart. 2 of these go into one of these. But I'll have clean jars for another use later. So I'm going to put this on my quick cycle and let it go. So anyway, think about your jars. Make sure they're clean and that they'll be hot by the time all this is done. We've come up against a couple tomatoes that have interesting characteristics. Let's talk about that. So we've got the top cracked tomato. Can I use it? Yes. Yes, you can! Go ahead and put it in the water like you normally would. Check it over, make sure it looks good. That cracked top, we're just going to cut beautiful parts of the tomato off around it. Or you can just take the top off entirely and go see what a barking dog is doing, and just throw that away. A male person came. Oh my god, it was an event. So now we've got a different kind of a tomato with some damage from bugs and crack. So I'm just going to peel that off. Let's just take a look and see what's underneath here. Now before I put these tomatoes in the I picked them yesterday, so before I put them in the fridge, what I do is I soak them in a bucket of water. And the reason I do that is because I'm an organic gardener, which means bugs get into my fruit and vegetables, right? But if you put everything into a bucket of water, anything that's alive in there can't breathe and it will swim to the surface. So you can kill it pretty easily. So if there was anything in there, it probably would have swam to the surface as long as this was underwater. Now you don't want to leave it underwater for days or anything. It'll start to ferment. pretty quickly. Actually, I wouldn't even do it for more than a day, maybe overnight if you're rushed. Look at that beautiful piece. Okay, so we're gonna just cut this tomato. We're looking at that area, that's that buggy area. Let's cut into pretty close to that. If you wanted to, you could just cut it like that and toss it. But I don't think there's anything in there. I'm putting stuff into the garbage. It's cut down. This is the piece that was left. There is a little bit of something right there, so we're going to just get rid of that. And then we've just got a nice piece of tomato. Here's the top part of that whole bug situation. Fine. Here's the rest of the tomato. That crack peeled right off because it was just through to the skin. There's more skin. And then the core, I'm just going to cut that out. So anything you come up against, just work with it, right? There's no set rules about some of this stuff. Canning is one thing, processing the food is another. If you're uncomfortable with it, don't eat it. If you think more like I do, it's protein, then you don't have to worry about it. All right, so I'm gonna finish these up. Ta-da! So we've got everything all put in the bowl, and the ice is all melted. Got my juice all over my cutting board. Remember to save this. Pour this into there or into your stock pot, because now we're to the second stage. Can you believe we're only at number 2? So it says working in batches, quarter enough tomatoes to measure about 2 cups. And really what they want you to do is put some tomatoes in the stock pot so you don't burn the bottom. And then continue to do this while stuff's boiling. We did it all ahead of time because we're smart and we don't want anything to burn. They say use a potato masher and crush the tomatoes to release the juices. We're just going to use our hands, yada, yada, yada. Continue until all tomatoes are added, then boil gently for 5 minutes. Then we're going to get to packing. So my jars are still in the dishwasher, so we're going to go ahead and get to throwing our beautiful tomatoes into the stock pot. And you guys, so excited about this. That is not just a stock pot. It is a pressure can or a steam canner. It's also a stock pot. Steam canning has just been approved by the USDA. So we're going to do a video on steam canning, but I wanted this to be a really basic steam or a water bath canning video for a starter. Most of you may not even have known about steam canning, but now it's a go. We'll do another video on that. Anyway, this particular steam canner also can function as a water bath canner and a regular old stock pot. So we're going to use it as a stock pot today. All right, so I'm going to put these tomatoes in here. I'm going to grab a handful. This is the way I like to do it. So I got a little whole tomato there, part of a tomato. I've got plum tomatoes. I have 4 different kinds of tomatoes in here. And so I'm just going to take it and do that. La la la. If you leave this off for a little while, great to have the kids help you. And this way too, if I've missed a core or something, I can fish it up. So anyway, here we go. And pour all those juices that have fallen into the bottom of this bowl. You're going to pour them in here too. So anyway, how easy, right? So far, right? No steps that are horrible hard. Nothing to make you cry. All right, do that. And do it over and over and over again until that's empty. All right, so we're about halfway done with the smashing of the tomatoes. Got to keep going with that. Check the dishwasher. It's only got 15 minutes to go, so let's get that hot water bath canner on the stove and think about getting it up to temperature. So if you have one of these enamel kinds, this is a 21 quart. You're going to see these little marks on the side, right? If you're going to be processing quarts, which are the bigger jars, then you're going to want to fill the water up to about this in the interior. If you're going to be doing pints, go about halfway between. And of course this varies. If you're going to be doing all the pints this holds, which is about 7, then you're going to want to be just underneath this mark, which is where I am. If the pints, you're going to only have like 3 pints in there, then you're going to want the water lower. However, very much easier to take water out than it is to put water in. I'm going to get that onto the boil. And have your rack up and on the side. So it will, try to do this one-handed, you can lower your jars in like that, and if you have it up on the side, then it's a lot easier to put your jars in one at a time rather than having to do them all at once, and you can still get the lid on, so that's going to allow this to come to a boil quicker. So finish the tomatoes, dishwasher's going to be done, then this will be nice and hot. Remember, if anything, you've done anything, you've forgotten it, no big deal. Just stop, take a breath, maybe have a glass of wine, and just go get the jars, go turn on the heat, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. All right, I'm gonna give this a stir and finish up my tomatoes. All right, so we have all the tomatoes in there and crushed. Bringing it up to a gentle boil. Got the hot water trying to come up to a little bit of a boil. Jars are almost done. So now I've laid out my canning equipment. I have, again, my book. I have a funnel, and this is an odd-shaped funnel. It's a canning funnel. It'll fit into almost all canning size mouths. So it'll fit into a larger mouth opening or a medium mouth opening. Regular is what they're called, but you can put food in there and then kind of shove it down on the side, so that makes it very convenient. I have my cutting board here. This is what I'm going to put the jars on. Here, how about a fake jar? So I'll put the jar on here in case I slop some stuff on the side that's just got a cutout. It'll capture anything. You could put it in just like a baking pan or a cookie sheet. So I'll do that, and I'll use a ladle or something to ladle this out and put it in here. I also have chosen to use citric acid instead of lemon juice for my acid. Citric acid. This company sells citric acid for a very good price. And let's see, for the size of container I'm using, which is a quart, not a pint, so it's 2 of these, it's going to take half a teaspoon. So instead of flipping through all my spoons every time and then having to check the book 29 times because I can't remember if it's a quarter or a whole or whatever, I just take this off my ring, and I know I add this into the jar, put in my tomatoes, then I have my lids back here in nice hot water. Doesn't need to be boiling. Ooh, got some tomatoes that jumped. Nice hot water to make everything pliable. Then I will debubble. We'll do this all together too. Get any of the little bubbles out of there that are in the tomatoes. This is to get those jars out of that hot water so I don't have to use my fingers. And then I've got my lids and rings in there. I'll wipe this down with some white vinegar. Reminds me I need to go do that. Get some white vinegar. I'll just do that now. So why do we wipe down the lid area? So what I'll do is have just straight vinegar in there. And I'll take just a towel, any kind of towel, and I'll wipe this down on top. And that is so that lid, that rubberized seal, doesn't have to fight with any of the tomato. It's just going to sit right on there. It's going to give it the best opportunity to be successful. Put the lid on, put the ring on, and then we'll move it over here and put it into the rack while we're waiting for all of this to come to temperature, right? So, just about time. Should we do one? Alright, you guys, so my dishwasher just stopped. Everything's doing what it's supposed to, so I'm going to get started. This jar is hot. I'm going to start with my citric acid, and I'm doing half a teaspoon for a quart jar right in the bottom. Don't rush. Everything in its time, right? Oh, I gotta just raise your head up there a little bit. So I'm going to move this cutting board closer to here so there's not much of a gap. This is where people can sometimes panic. They think, oh my gosh, everything's hot, I gotta rock and roll. Don't worry about it. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Alright, so we need a ½ inch headspace. So we're going to fill this jar up until that point. And I can tell you from experience that a ½ inch of headspace is where that middle screw thing is. And at the bottom of this, that would be a whole inch. So we're going to add just a little bit more than that. I'm just going to put some little juice in there. Good enough. Take the lid off. Debubble. So any bubbles that are in there, you want them to get out early. You're always going to have some. This is one reason why siphoning occurs a lot for people. Yeah, so just debubble. There'll be bubbles in there. It's not a big deal. See how much crap I've got all over that rim now? So that's what I'm going to do here. Just wipe that off. See? No biggie. Get my ta-da thing. And look in the back here. Make sure that's off. So I have a small mouth here. So I'm going to get a small mouth lid, ball lid. And let's see if I can get a small. I have both small and large mouth, which makes things a little bit more exciting. Anyway, found it. So you're going to screw that on, and you're not going to reef it down. Fingertip tight, okay? No reefing. And then, this is the way this goes. This grabs the jar, this is in your hand. I'm going to pick this up. Come over here. And I'm going to kind of put this more toward the middle because it's the only jar I have in here right now. No, I'm going to put it in the middle until I have another jar in there to offset the sides. Put this on again, see it fits. And now I'm going to do that again and again and again. So we'll come back when I'm done. So this is the last jar I have. And as you can see, I'm just shy of having enough fluid in here. It's only to here, and I really need it to be like up to there. So I need another, gosh, a ½ inch or something. So I still got this nice hot water here. I'm just going to kind of pour that in there and try to get some of that extra glop from the side of the funnel. Oop. And I'm gold. All right. Let's finish this one up. Alright, so I know that doesn't look pretty, but it's going to be great. Don't worry about it. No problemo. So this, let's see, how many do I have in here again? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Debubble, you guys. It's reminding me in that way. Mix this up a little bit too. This is the last one, so it's going to be more juice anyway. I might just, when I open it up, blend it like juice. So I'm not seeing much air in there. It's mostly just fluid. And of course I added more fluid to it, but you know what? That's the way it rolls. Alright. Okay, let's go look at our canner here. We've got it pretty full. And let's show you how full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. Perfect for me. Something I noticed a long time ago, you guys have probably noticed it, are the regular mouth canning jars are taller than the wide mouth. I don't know what genius thought of that plan. Probably because they want it to hold the same amount of fluid. You know, it gets shorter at the shoulder, but come on, you guys, this would have been a hell of a lot easier if they were all the same size. Okay, so here we go. Now, the scariest part, and that is to take this and lower it in. I want to block your whole view, and hope that I have enough water to cover everything, but not so much water that it overflows. That comes with time and experience. Waha! So you can see these, you get right up to the edge right there, right? Alright, so now what? Now can we start timing now? No, we can't. We need to wait for this to all come to a boil again. And I've had it at a pretty good boil, so it's only going to take a minute or so. And when I'm at a rolling boil, a furious boil, then we start timing. 35 minutes for pints, 45 minutes for quarts. It's a long time, but that's what it takes, so I'll come back to you to show you what a rolling boil looks like. You guys, so the timer has gone off. It's been 45 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and just turn that off and just let them sit in there for a couple, 3 minutes. And then I will lift up the wire rack and let them be there for a second or so. Alright, so actually I'm just going to pull these out. I was going to lift the rack up, but I'm changing my mind here because it's hot, the water's too close, I'm not feeling up to it today. So, well, actually let me show you one thing. See, the water is just a little murky, not very much. That means I had a little bit of siphoning. If I had a lot of siphoning, the water would be orange or red. But we didn't, so that's good. That means most of the fluid is still in the jars. And you can see here too, we have some separation, right? What's that all about? Well, that is usually from the tomato getting warm and then cold again. Do you see those little droplets that hit on there? See how they're a little orange? So definitely had a little siphoning. It means I filled something up too high probably. Oh, it's this one. You see that? It's coming right out of the jar. That's alright, these are still processing. It should still seal, but if it doesn't, that's okay. We can reprocess it, or we can just put it in the fridge and use it, in the next few days. So usually this is a pectin and a juice separation. It happens when the tomatoes, in this case the tomatoes, are heated up and then cooled, and then heated again. So they're heating again because obviously they were canned, but I picked these and then I had them in the fridge. So that could be what's happening here, but I'm seeing still more juice coming out there, and yep, there's some on the back side of here. So that recipe said to put in a 1/2 inch of headspace. I'm beginning to think that that's too much, but we'll give these a while to sit, just a little bit. And I'm just going to take the water off the top. Don't tilt the jars. I know you're going to want to. You know you're going to want to. But you can break a seal that way. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see if these that are leaking seal. Right now, they're not. Some are sealed, some are not. That one's not. Look at that. But they could still seal. They really can take up to 24 hours to seal. Personally, if it's not sealed in a few hours, I'm calling it a failure. So we'll come back and see what it's all about. Alright, you guys, so now it's been over 24 hours. I did have to reprocess 2 of these jars. They didn't just quite seal up immediately, and I took the ring off and then I pulled on the top a little bit. Granted, I didn't give it enough time, but when I pulled it off, there was gunk all around underneath here. I'm going to link a video on what that would look like. I didn't film it because I've already done a film on that and what to do with it. So I just took these two and I reprocessed them so you can tell everything is nice and sealed up tight. So now what we do is we take the rings off all the jars, and then we will give the jars a little bath. And that's because almost every jar will give you a little bit of siphoning, which means that there's tomato juice and tomato water on the outside of these jars, which makes them sticky and will attract bugs. And after a while, it's going to start to stink because, you know, you're just letting it rot on the outside of a jar. It's just not very pleasant. So give it a good rinse. Rinse and a little scrub down. Let them dry. Mark the tops of these. And then put them away in storage. If I can something myself, I will eat it. Let's see, it's 9:21. I would eat it as long as it's sealed. If I started to worry about it when I opened it, what I would do is I would open the jar, I would give it a good sniff, I'd look for any mold, mildew, or anything. You know, botulism you can't smell. So ever any doubt, toss it out, but you could open it up, try those tests, and especially if it's still sealed. I mean, if it's still sealed, only if it's still sealed, do that. And then you can boil it for 10 minutes if you're still in fear, a little bit of fear, but you know, I know what my technique is like. I'm happy with my technique. It works. So I'm going to do that. All right. Put them away now. Somewhere where the temperature is kind of stable year-round, and they're not going to get falling off a shelf or anything like that. The garage is not great if it's going to get 110 degrees in the summer and 20 in the, or 0 in the winter. It's fluctuations in heat will cause the seals, can cause the seals to fail. Now, will it happen? It's happened to me before, so I keep these in an extra bedroom. You can put jars under your bed. You can put them like along behind a couch. You can hide them all sorts of places. As long as you know where they are, that's what's important. But somewhere where the temperature is going to be about not hundreds of degrees different. And if you have humidity, be careful because these jars are metal and they will start to rust after a while. But yeah, jars are good to go for a while. So anyway, there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions. Now's the time. Ask away. And I try to get back to people within 24 hours. So thanks for watching.